Hey, everybody, please remember to like, subscribe, and share.
Second. All right. Good morning, everybody, and welcome back in to my little spot here on the C Show. Got your boy Chris coming at you from an undisclosed location here in Alabama. I got a special guest here with me tonight, Garrick Gregory, all the way out from the LA, right? What is that right?
I grew up in LA. I live in Kern County in Ridgecrest, California now.
Okay. Where in relation to LA, where's that at?
LA, it's about 30 minutes from LA.
Okay. Well, before we get started, tell me a little bit about yourself, man. Your background, where you grew up, education, what you do.
I grew up in Covina, California. I went to school in Los Angeles. I majored in engineering. I earned a bachelor's and master's in mechanical engineering. Then I was able to apply, get a job. I did research when I was in college in after I graduated senior year, and then 3 years of graduate school. Then I applied and got a job with the Department of Defense out here in Ridgecrest, California. And they always have the signs, what you see here, do here, stays here. So I became an engineer. And with USC, the Lakers, I grew up with all of that. What's interesting is
did you go to USC?
No, but I have a friend of mine I have a couple of friends that went to USC. I have a very good friend of mine who went to Notre Dame, and I have a couple of friends who went to UCLA all at the same time because I went to Bishop Amat.
How old are you? I mean, how old was you when your first memory of sports?
First memory of sports, I say that probably had to do with watching baseball on TV, watching some of the Laker games on TV, because I grew up in the 80s. This was when the Lakers were in the Showtime part of it.
Oh, yeah. Go Celtics.
What is interesting is the Celtics and the Lakers, they were always there every year. Then we had the Detroit Pistons in 88, 89, and 90.
I remember that, too. I mean, we may be close to the same ages. It was the Lakers and the Celtics every year for the finals in the 80s. And then, of course, Robin and then. So was baseball or basketball your first love of sports?
I would say more baseball. And then when I got older, I got more into football. And then when I had friends of mine playing in college, that's when I was studying the game big time. Like, I actually had some friends of mine that were able to go to the NFL, and then after they retired, it's like, it is so interesting. I'll never forget my friend that played football for Notre Dame. It is sophomore year, and my friend Corey is looking at his tapes because he plays linebacker. Corey Minor. This is spring 1997, and he's preparing for next year. And he's looking at the Michigan game. And Corey's mom is, Corey, this kid's a third stringer, and he's setting up plays against you. How come every time he's able to set a play up and he's able to have a fullback and a tight end block you out, but every time the coach runs his plays, you're able to get to the weak side and sack him, or even get tackle, or just they're able to lose yardage every time he does his plays, but he's making up his own play and trying to read you. She says, Corey, if he goes to the NFL in 2 years, he's going to be good. Do you know that third stringer ended up being?
Who is that?
Tom Brady.
Wasn't he either the last quarterback chosen or the last pick in the NFL draft?
Yep. So that's crazy. My friend my friend's mom spotted Brady out before anybody. I never forgot.
My first memory of, and we'll get back to that in just a second, my first memory of Tom Brady was in the 2000 Orange Bowl. and Alabama played Michigan, and they could not stop Tom. I mean, we could not stop Tom Brady, and it was in overtime. That's back before they changed and you had to go for two, and we had a kicker miss an extra point. So back before I forget, was you a Dodgers fan?
Yeah, I grew up rooting for the Dodgers. The 90s, all my favorite Dodgers and Angels I grew up with in the 80s, they all became Yankees. And that's how I followed the Yankees, too.
Don Mattingly and...
this is who else was it? Raul Mondesi became a Yankee. Who was Jose Vizcaíno? Darryl Strawberry was on, despite his improprieties, he was on there.
Yeah, it was a shame. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I was just saying it was a shame. Strawberry had so much talent, and it's a disease, and a lot of people don't realize that addiction is a disease.
Just because you can don't mean that you should. Because remember, Dwight Gooden, he was another one. Remember, he became a Yankee too, but he had more problems than Strawberry. And they gave Strawberry so many chances. Remember, the Dodgers fired him in 93 or 94 when they caught him doing coke in the locker room.
I remember that. I do remember that. So you got into football. Well, first of all, let's go back and touch on, those classics. The Bird versus Johnson. Remember they played the national championship game in '79, I believe, Michigan State and Indiana State.
Yep. And you won't believe this though. One of my chemistry teachers was a Michigan State alumni, so he was at that game. So he always shared that story of seeing Larry Bird and Magic Johnson going up against each other. And he said that was a prelude to the 1980s NBA.
Arguably two of the greatest players. The thing I love about Bird is and don't get me wrong, I love the Magic Man too, but Bird was so stoic. There was no emotion. Just watch him. It was so great. One of the greatest stories I've heard was it was on Christmas Day and they were playing the Pacers, and they called a timeout, and he walked past the Pacers bench and he told Reggie Miller, he said, "We're going to call a screen. I'm going to catch it in the corner right here. I'm going to shoot a three, and we're going to win the game." Ran the screen, caught the ball, drained the three, hit it. He ran by him and said, "Merry fucking Christmas."
Or my favorite story, I remember seeing a Lakers game on Christmas. They showed pictures of Dwayne Wade and Kobe when they were all jawing each other on the floor. They were very competitive with each other. They asked Kobe, what did you and Dwayne Wade, what did Dwayne Wade say to you? I asked him what he got for Christmas. When you saw the clip of them just going back and forth. But here's the interesting part about Kobe, though, with Dwayne Wade. 2010, remember when they let Lakers beat the Celtics? But in 2008, the Celtics beat them. Dwayne Wade had a good series against the Celtics before they got eliminated. In 2010, Kobe called up Dwayne Wade personally. So I saw some of your clips. How do I beat Paul Pierce? How do I beat Rondo off the pick and roll? What are you doing off the pick and roll?
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. It was such a shame how Magic's career, got shut down because, man, he probably could have played 5 or 6 more years. There's no telling what kind of numbers he would have put up if he hadn't got sick.
And I remember that. I remember that Tuesday. It was my freshman year coming home from high school. We were all on the bus. was Tuesday, November 5th, 1991. I remember that day. And everybody was just listening. Everyone on the bus was just straight up listening. Like, what? Because remember, this was the year of the first dance with the Chicago Bulls. The Bulls had beat them in 5 games after summer of 91. After the Bulls got past the Pistons, that was the ultimate test. So the bad Detroit bad boys, Bill Laimbeer, Rick Mahorn, Dennis Rodman. What's interesting, you remember when they changed the rules, Dennis Rodman is the only one who had a career afterward.
Yeah. Yeah. Because one thing you did not want to do is go across the middle against Bill Laimbeer.
Oh, they were playing they were like borderline WWF.
Oh, yeah. And the thing about Magic is, had that happened today, nothing would have he wouldn't have to retire. I mean, it's came so far.
We just didn't know about that at that time.
Well, they knew it. Well, see, I mean, they knew it then, that you couldn't get it from saliva and stuff like that. But the stigmatism was still so much that people was, I'm not going out there. I'm not going to do him. And if you remember, I believe, sorry, don't get off topic, but didn't George Foreman offer to fight Tommy Morrison again? Because the first time Tommy wasn't sick, but didn't he offer to fight Tommy Morrison again to prove that he wasn't scared?
I think he did. Because remember, the boxing back then, at that time, it was just like, it wasn't like what it is today, more mainstream. They were out there trying to kill each other.
I mean, and let's talk on that for a second, because I'm sure you kept up with that too. To me, I used to be the biggest boxing fan in the world. I can't watch it now. I mean, because it's just not the same. I mean, you don't have, I guess, the characters, and maybe they do, but I'm just not following. When you think about Lennox Lewis and Razor Ruddock, and I mean, I'm not talking about Tyson and Holyfield, Foreman and Alex Ironman Stewart, and I mean, it was just a lot more fun back then than boxing.
Because it was also, you didn't know what to expect, because now they're more mainstream today.
Yeah.
They're more mainstream and more media driven. Back then, it was all about just boxing, and you just didn't know. They were dedicated to their craft versus more of the media hype now than anything. Because remember when Mike Tyson was in his prime and stuff like that, when he couldn't be stopped, like, you blinked, and there goes Michael Spinks.
When Tyson was 19 years old, people can say Ali, whatever. There's nobody that could have defeated Tyson. He had so much pent up rage. It was like unleashing a tiger on it. I mean,
and you saw the damage he did to some people. I remember Mitch Green. Remember that? Some of the fights they made. Mitch Green Tyson got in his head so much that Mitch Green tried to get Tyson on the street.
But let me tell you something. You know who I think that might have cut Tyson? And hear me out on this. Foreman. Because you could not knock Foreman, old Foreman. You could not knock him down, and Tyson would have wore himself out. Ali told Tyson, or let's see, I think it was Ali. Yeah, Ali told Tyson, "Do not get in the ring with him. Do not get in the ring with him." And somebody else would tell Foreman, "Don't get in the ring with him."
But what's really interesting is we saw Tyson Fury beat Deontay Wilder twice.
True.
Because I think Deontay Wilder was not used to seeing somebody bigger than him. Because you know that Fury was a little bit bigger than him.
Right.
And plus, plus when somebody can go all that distance, because remember from the third fight, DeAndre had bulked up and he still could not last that long.
Sorry, my thing come off here.
And what's
Okay.
interesting, about
When did you first? Huh?
What's interesting about Tyson Fury is that dude beat depression, so he wasn't scared of anybody or anything.
Oh, not at all. But now, so our basketball's over with. It's gonna get dark as I get on here. Give me a Dr. Pepper. So when did you first start? The mid '90s? Is that when you became a USC fan?
I would say I became a USC fan when my friends were playing for them. When my friends started to play for them because I had started high school out at Damien, and then I ended up graduating from Bishop Amat. So I knew the center, I knew one of the running backs, I knew one of the secondaries, Dalen McCutcheon, who went to the NFL for 9 years. And then somebody else, like when I graduated, there was somebody else below me, another class of underclassmen. There was somebody else.
And what year did you say this was again?
This was from 95 to 99. And then
that was when John Robinson was back. Yep. And Paul Hackett, I believe.
Yep. And I had three friends. Check this out. And I had three friends play for UCLA at the same time. And I remember that USC had went through two coaches because of UCLA. Because freshman year, I remember watching the game. Cade McNown threw over the middle. Dalen McCutcheon intercepts it. So what do? Sophomore, junior, and senior year. UCLA gets this wide receiver who played volleyball in the spring, and he's 6'7", Danny Farmer. So you got this receiver who can run and jump, and they always had Danny Farmer jump over Dalen for it. Because if you threw on the ground, it'd be too late.
So tell me, what is it like to be a USC fan? Because I can tell you what it's an Alabama fan, but what does it mean to pull for the Trojans?
I think because what it means to be a fan is being an SC fan, watching them play. You know that these people are going to dominate one day in the NFL. Look how many people have been to USC and have gone to the NFL. It's like with you in Alabama. Like, you look at them in college, but you wait till these guys go pro. And one thing I'll never forget.
But USC has been down for so long.
These are the dark days right now. It's just going to take time. Rome, empires eventually fall.
And you know what? And Alabama went through a period like that. And me and my friends on our football podcast, you have to come on one night with us. There is no reason, I'm looking at USC. You're out there in LA. You're in Hollywood. You got movie stars. I mean, you're with celebrities. You're on the beach. There is no reason you can't yell out the window and find 11 good football players to come play. I mean, there's no reason that should not be competing for national championships every single year.
When you take away that fundamental, remember with Pete Carroll when they took him out of the equation? That's when things started to go south because it was about the NCAA, about kids getting paid. But what do you do? I mean, you look at that time period. You had Reggie Bush, Clay Matthews playing on that same team, Troy Polamalu. You had Matt Leinart went to the NFL too. You had Carson Palmer. You had quite a few people in that legacy in that Pete Carroll era. They went to the NFL, and they did very well, despite them losing that championship. And that's the interesting part about this. Do you notice when they took Reggie Bush's Heisman away and gave it to Vince Young, that it cursed Vince Young?
Did they take it away and give it to him?
I think they did. When they took that Heisman away from Reggie,
national championship, right? Blank. I didn't know they did that. Let's talk about that for a minute. That was one of the greatest college football games I've ever seen in my life.
Oh yeah, when they came back and they couldn't tackle Vince. Remember, Vince Young was like 6'5", and
I thought USC had it because they couldn't stop. Texas couldn't stop USC, and when Vince Young got rolling, they could not stop him.
Or how about this?
I mean,
or how about Alabama when they played Texas? Remember in the national? That's one of my memories too, because I lived because Pasadena is not too far from where I grew up. So here, me and my dad are watching the Alabama and Texas championship game. Remember that in 2000?
Oh yeah, of course.
Third play, Colt McCoy gets knocked out and he can't feel his shoulder, and that's the year Alabama won the championship. What was it? Mark Ingram from Alabama won the Heisman Trophy.
Mm-hmm. I'm the biggest Bama fan in the world. Had Colt McCoy not got hurt, Alabama would have lost that game.
You think? You really think?
Well, I mean, think about this right here. Their backup, being Texas was down 24-6 at the half, and Garrett, whatever his name was, the final was 37-23. So with Colt McCoy on that team, and something else, if you remember Alabama's first possession, they did a fake punt on their 25-yard line. Greg McElroy had 3 broke ribs.
Oh wow! See, I didn't know.
Yeah, that's why Saban went for that fake punt, because Saban knew he needed every possession. But I mean, it was a great game. I don't know. I wished had USC would have went a different route back in 2009 and got somebody else and let Kiffin get some experience. Then Kiffin is mature enough now he can handle that job. Hey, if that's who I would be going after, I would go get Kiffin. Come on, Kiffin. You've learned, you went through your lumps. You learned up under the master. Come on home, Lane.
This is one thing I'll never forget about Alabama. Dick Saban will always have these trick plays, or he always has something up his sleeve. You can never count Alabama out. Because what did we see? It was 10-0. Most of the game, Alabama catches up. It goes to triple overtime. Or how about Georgia in 2009, 19? Remember that in 2018 with Georgia and Alabama? Georgia had it, and Alabama straight took it from them.
They did it 2 years in a row.
Or how about when they played?
Now, I think one of the best calls, the first year they beat Clemson, I think in 2015 for the national championship. It was 20. I think it was 21. It was 24-24, or it was 21-21. Anyway, and I had you could just feel it. Clemson had the momentum, even though Alabama scored. It was Clemson's game. They had the momentum, and he called a onside kick, and that changed the whole game right there. And some of it comes to, if it works, it works, and some of it, if it don't, it don't.
Or how about
what do you think?
Here's something I remember when Alabama was beating Notre Dame. I was over at my friend Corey's house when watching the game since it was like when Alabama just ran Notre Dame over. Nick Saban.
That was men against.
Nick Saban put in this slant freshman, and this receiver embarrassed everyone. And he was only a freshman. They stuck him in the third or the fourth quarter, and that receiver was like, wait a minute, he's only a third stringer. Oh wow.
The thing that about Saban is other coaches don't have is you look at when think about his career at Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
When he came to Alabama, they was a hard-nosed running team. They had a game manager at quarterback. They had a 6'5" receiver who went up and got the ball, and they controlled the clock. Now look at what they do. They have a prototypical quarterback that can put the game on his shoulders. The receivers are these small guys that get in what am I looking for? In between people, in the zone, and they hit them in stride, and they end up getting a 70, 80-yard strike. Their whole team's changed. While some coaches refuse to change, he changes. And if his ego is not so strong that if somebody's better than him, he's going to go out and get that coach, and he's going to get the best coach out there.
I think college is more where
So
that.
What is it going to take to get USC back, man? I mean, what is it going to take?
It's going to take the experience. It's going to take trial and error. Like, you know what?
But you've got to have. But do you not agree? You've got to have a special kind of coach, almost an NFL type coach, to coach there.
I'm thinking maybe one of their alumni can probably come back there and coach. Maybe.
Deion Sanders wanted the job.
Why didn't they take him? They should have.
Well, Deion's having some health problems right now.
Oh.
I'm not sure what all's going on, but Deion's having some health problems. But you're going to have a John McKay, a John Robinson, a Pete Carroll type guy to come in there and coach that team. Because you've got to, think about, you got to deal with all these celebrities out there at practice every day. It's tough.
They got to go back to what was working before. Remember when Pete Carroll was there? That was something. That whole Pete Carroll era. Because they could say anything they want. They cannot have a bunch of kids going to school broke and then them go empty, reaching for their wallet and reaching in their pants pocket in an empty wallet and going to class with an empty stomach. And these people are making all this money. You can't have them kids going to school broke.
No. Speaking of one alumni that y'all don't want, and rumor is he may get fired, is Sark.
Who?
Sark at Texas.
Oh. When these NFL coaches, when they want you gone, they want you gone. Here's the interesting part about it. That Michigan victory over Ohio State, that sealed Jim's job. If they lost that game, I think they would have let him go.
I don't think so. Me and his friend had a conversation about that the other day. I don't. It is possible. I'm not going to say you're wrong. I don't think they would have fired him if he hadn't won that job. I mean, it's possible they could have, but it's a hard call right now because the league they're in with all four of, Penn State, Michigan State, Ohio State, those four in this day and time, they may have. I mean, don't get me wrong, but he did end up beating Michigan State. He did beat Penn State. He got him to 10 wins.
Okay.
I would have hated to put his whole career on that one job because think about this right here. Think about the 7 seasons Michigan had before Harbaugh was there.
Mm-hmm. But you also remember they were losing to Ohio State for 8 years. So even though that this game went very good, this is a much better improved season. You're right because you know what? They could have fired him 5 or 6 years ago.
Oh,
do you know how embarrassed Ohio State was embarrassed? Urban Meyer was embarrassing them.
Do you know what would happen if you lost more than 3 games or 4 games to Auburn and Alabama?
Oh no.
You're gone. I mean, you're gone. I mean, but I was glad for Harbaugh. I'm not a Michigan fan, but I think it was good for football that Harbaugh won that game, and he should provide a mess up, get into the playoffs. Now that's what's going to be interesting coming up the playoffs, man. I mean, this thing, the madness is fixing to happen.
Check this out. Do you remember when we were growing up? Remember the '90s, bro? When we were growing up,
and they put the BCS in.
Yep. And do you remember the TV shows growing up? Remember Saved by the Bell?
Oh yeah.
You know that Jim Harbaugh had a small part on there one episode.
No, really?
Mm-hmm. Go on YouTube and look up Jim Harbaugh Saved by the Bell.
Okay. I'm going to send you a clip, and it was in, I think, about 1980. And Keith Jackson was interviewing Coach Bryant. And they asked him about the playoffs. This was in 1980. And he said, well, and ESPN had just come out the year before. And he said, to paraphrase it, something, well, with the way TV and money is getting involved now, he said, I just don't see a way that we're going to continue going like this without a playoff. But I'd like to see the bowls still be involved in it somehow. But, just TV's taking over. It was so prophetic of what was going to come. And, it still took, 35 years for it to happen. But he's seen it then. Mm-hmm. And what they're fixing to do now, let me tell you, and I'm surprised it's really taking this long, especially when they started with the SEC championship game.
Mm-hmm.
When Texas and Oklahoma come into this, and Stalin said this a few years ago, he said there's going to be 4 super conferences. They're going to have 4 pods of 4 teams each. Those 4 winners of those pods are then going to play a playoff to decide the conference champion. They're going to play a 10-game season, 2-game playoff, and then they're going to go into probably 8-game playoff season. You're going to have about an 18-game football season is where we're headed to.
So in other words, college football is becoming like the NFL.
To an extent, yeah. I mean, of course, you don't have the divisional playoffs, but yeah, that's what's going to happen. And probably what I think is going to happen is you're going to have the 4 division winners get an automatic berth, and then you have 4 at-large berths.
But I think with some of those schools, like what we're seeing in the southern section with Georgia, Alabama, especially Alabama, some of you don't have any more to prove. You don't have nothing more to prove. Because one thing you got to remember about college football, they're going to graduate. Some of them will be in the NFL. And they're going to have some very illustrious careers. Look how many people Alabama put in the NFL and they've done well. Look at SC.
Here's what I can't understand how Saban does. How does he keep these 4th and 5th year seniors to stay? Like, Ryan Robinson, he's a 5th year senior. Najee Harris was a senior last year. Mac Jones was a senior, or not Mac Jones, the receiver Smith. Those guys was 1st-round picks. They kept them. I mean, I don't know what they're doing.
You know what that is? They probably could be completing their degree, because one thing you must remember about the NFL. The NFL is the National Football League, but for some players, it can mean not for long.
And that's true. And, a lot of those kids that go to play at these schools, they come from nothing. And a lot of their parents, especially, the grandmother or mother, whoever the staple of the family is, make them promise that they're going to get their degree. Then they're going to graduate. And I mean, and that's important. I mean, because look, yeah, it's for football, but still, they're going to school to get an education.
Yeah, I had a friend of mine that went to the NFL. He went back to school and got it finished and completed his degree. It was crazy.
There's a lot of guys who do that. I have all the admiration in the world for them.
Mm-hmm. Well, how
Yeah,
about
when a guy
David
goes
Robinson?
back,
How about David
Shaq
Robinson?
did.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Remember David Robinson, the admiral who played for the Spurs? He told the NBA they wanted him junior year. He said, "No, I have an obligation to serve my country before I come to the NBA. So I'll see you one more year." They wanted him his junior year.
I love me some David Robinson. That got me thinking of a funny story about recruiting, and how there's always somebody in. I was listening to Wimp Sanderson. I don't know if you know who Wimp was. He coached basketball at Alabama, and he said in each family there's one person that you got to convince. It may be the grandma, it may be the aunt, it could be the dad, it could be the brother, somebody. But he said he was in there and they was recruiting this player, and they threw everything they had at him. They was talking to the parents and the kid, and he said, and sitting over there in the corner, looking out the window, he said there was this 80-year-old woman, and she was just staring out the window, never said a word, never acknowledged him or anything. And he said when it was over with, the kid went somewhere else. He said that was the woman that was that they had to convince that they was trying to sell to. Because it's a hard sell. I mean, a lot of, and I don't think. I think parents should let their kids decide where they want to go to school.
Who's going to offer them the best support, the best package. But they also got to remember, you got to check out the campus and see what that's like and see if this is for you. Because
right,
because you can go there, but if you're not ready, if you're not gelling with that campus, don't go there. Because there's going to be some campuses you'll mesh with and some campuses that they won't. Speaking about basketball players, your basketball coach from Alabama, did he coach Robert Horry?
Yeah, Whip coached Robert Horry, and he coached. Oh my God, what was my boy's name? Latrell Sprewell.
Okay.
Yeah, he was. Man, they were playing. It was in the Sweet 16, and they were playing Loyola. It was 91, I believe. That's when Loyola was scoring like 120 points a game, and he had this game plan. And I think they could have ran with him, to be honest with you. But I mean, Horry and Sprewell, they would break and they would run the court, and they would have wide open layups, and they'd pull it out and run the clock and run the shot clock down.
He was big. So he was Big Shot Bob at Alabama, right?
Oh yeah.
Well, you remember Game 4 in 2002 with the playoffs and against with the Lakers and the Kings, how heated it got? The Kings blew a 30-point lead or 27 30-point lead. Vlade Divac tipped the ball, and here comes Robert Horry.
I will never forget that right there. They was and they were up 3-1, I believe, on the Lakers in that.
I think what it was, or they were about to go up 3-1. But what's really suspicious is you remember Game 1 when the Lakers were so-called, they were running over the Kings. People forgot. After Game 1, Kobe Bryant ordered room service and got food poisoning. Remember the cheeseburger and the cheesecake he ordered from room service? And then
I don't remember that one.
Yeah, it happened during the playoffs after Game 1 between the Kings and the Lakers, and that's what stretched out the series.
Remember the one? What was? Oh God, I always get the teams mixed up. Is when Larry God, I can't think of his last name. My boy Allen Iverson was scoring 60 points a game against the Lakers. They could not stop him.
Larry Brown.
Larry Brown and Iverson. Allen Iverson. They could not stop him.
But you remember what happened is they stuck Tyrone Lue on him. Remember that? Remember the finals in 2001?
Mm-hmm.
And they mic'd him after game. And I remember when they mic'd him. And they go over, remember the NBA on NBC, or I'm not sure what it is in Alabama, but we all remember when they would always mic the players and the refs. Iverson was complaining to the ref, "Hey, look, ref, I don't like the way he's holding me." He's all, "Okay." He's all, "But look, you better do something." And the ref's all, "Okay, but you watch those elbows." What? He told Iverson, "Watch those elbows. You're not used to somebody keeping up with you. You're fast, but this is the first time I think you've met your match." Because remember when Tyrone Lue was with him every single play?
Mm-hmm.
Then they showed you that one Iverson had that one good shot in overtime, and they show him stepping over Tyrone Lue, but they don't show you all the other 4 games how he was running around, leading them into the traps and everything.
Yeah, I used to got me to thinking. Sorry, off track. When I used to hear the debate about Phil Jackson, the greatest coach of all time, and don't get me wrong, I mean Phil, he has his place in history, but I was like, hell, I mean, if I had Jordan and Pippen and Kukoc and Longley and Steve Kerr, and I think I could win a championship or two myself.
Or how about Rodman?
Oh yeah, brought Rodman to the team. I mean,
what was interesting about Rodman is when he was with the Bull, it was that relationship with Madonna is how he learned to market himself. Because Madonna was the one that said, "Look, if you're going to act a fool and get crazy, this is how you're going to make some money off of it."
And see, and when I was a kid, and you got to, and this is part, I think, of growing up in conservative Alabama. People hated Rodman. I loved Rodman, man. I thought Rodman was cool, man. I loved him.
Well, he'd always bring that extra excitement. Oh, I can only imagine.
What is that?
I can only imagine what it was like then in the 90s. Because here you had this controversial player, and then Alabama was very conservative. They're not ready for that. Like, who is this? How come you can't be like Michael or like Scottie back then? I think Scottie Pippen's broke. You writing books and you just putting people's business out there. You broke.
Yeah, I mean, Scottie was. Back, one of the neat stories I liked about Jordan was when he came and played baseball for the minor league team down here. Yeah, with the Birmingham Barons, he's on the minor league team. He didn't like the bus. He bought them like a $400,000 air conditioned bus and left with him because he didn't like riding on that thing.
Well, you got to remember that heat in Alabama in the South, that's a different ball game. People ain't ready for that heat and humidity.
Son, let me tell you, I moved down to Louisiana for a while to sell trailers, and people told me, they said, "Man, the humidity's down there's bad." Humidity. I was like, "Man, I'm from Alabama." I said, "I know what humidity is." Man, the summer in Louisiana, it ain't no comparison. I've never felt anything like that for my life.
Oh my God.
And let me tell you something. Those people are a different breed. I mean, if you ever heard the term, first time I ever heard, I thought it was a racist term, with the term coon ass.
Uh-huh.
All right. Well, I figured out what it meant. I was down there and I was trying to get this woman, old white woman. I was trying to get her in there. She went by this trailer, and I was trying to get her in there to talk to her. And she didn't want to come in the office, and I couldn't figure out why she could, why she wouldn't get in there. I was like, well, come on, man, let's just talk about it. And, she was just hesitant trying to get back to her car. And I said, well, why can't we just go in there and talk about it? And she goes, well, I just ran over a turtle and I got to get home and make gumbo.
In the middle of the summer?
Kid you not, gumbo. Yes. And that's when, because when I first time I heard it, I thought, oh my God, that's a racist term. They said, no, that's what you call them Cajuns down there.
You want to hear what's really interesting about that humidity you have in the South? I remember visiting my relatives in South Carolina. Why is every insect on steroids?
I don't know.
I don't understand that humidity makes those where you're at in all of the South.
Oh! I thought you were telling a joke. I don't know. It's probably something to do with that because I mean, man, you talk about mosquitoes as big as helicopters.
Oh, what did it for me? Oh, what did it for me is I thought I was looking at a hummingbird. When I was in South Carolina, it was this big, this wide, buzzing around. I'm like looking at the flight patterns. Remember, I'm a California kid. I don't know what's them all. Oh, that's a nice little hummingbird. I get a closer look up on it. Do you know what it ended up being?
A mosquito?
No, I wish it was a mosquito. It was a yellow jacket.
They've got on me before. I mean, especially in the summertime. I mean, things will eat you alive.
I got out of there so quick it was unreal. But I said you wouldn't need. But I said you trying to exterminate that nest, you wouldn't need a exterminator. You would need Sigourney Weaver.
Don't ever go in the woods in the summertime. It's so dry before you know it, you'll be on a snake.
What do you have? The copperheads out there? Or the squirrels?
Copperheads, rattlesnakes, you name it. Now, most snakes are, contrary to popular belief, they're not aggressive. They're going to warn you. They're going to make a noise. They're going to tell you to back the fuck off. And, be in your best interest, to if you hear them, to back up. Because they're going to warn you to back away, except for water moccasins. They'll try to get in the boat with you.
Oh, those things are vicious. Water moccasins, they're very aggressive.
Yes. Rattlesnakes, no, they're not. They're not going to try, that they want you to leave them alone. If you back off, they're not going to follow you. But you keep on.
Yeah. The aggressive ones we have out over here in the West, like over here, is the Mojave Green. That's the rattlesnake that'll go after you, and it's very aggressive and it's very toxic. It's got a neurotoxin and a hematoxin. We have another snake called a sidewinder, but the Mojave Green is 17 times more venomous than the sidewinder.
I don't know if it's the same way with all of them, but with the rattlesnakes, the babies are more deadly because they don't know when to quit letting out the venom.
Yep, and it's more potent. We had somebody here get on. There was a big email where I work at. We had a snake handler. They were hiking one day. He's a snake handler. He was showing everybody a baby sidewinder. When he was putting it down, it curled around and bit him. He needed 12 vials of antivenom. And guess how much that antivenom was? That antivenom was like $2,000 a pop, but he had health insurance. So that health insurance covered it all.
When you said that about snake handler, I don't know, down here in the South especially, there's a religious, well, I guess almost a cult, the Pentecostal. My grandfather was actually a Pentecostal preacher, and they're the ones that. Now he didn't handle snakes, but there's a sect of them. They will handle rattlesnakes, and they will they will take these snakes into church, and they will hold them up, and they'll be dancing and singing and praising God, and they'll hold them things right there, and basically, daring God not to let them bite them. Where it comes from is there's a scripture in the Bible. It's I think it's Mark 15, chapter 34. It says, "For I will send you out into the world, and you will pick up, you will drink deadly hemlock and pick up deadly serpents. And if you call on the name of the Lord thy God, they will not harm you." Well, there's been several instances here in Alabama where a preacher was handling a snake, and he got bit, and he kept preaching for about 15 minutes. And that after that 15 minutes, that venom hit his heart, and he fell dead as a rattlesnake. My grandfather, like I said, he was a very religious man, but he always said God gave him enough sense not to pick up a snake.
What? Hey, that's true. You know what I also said? This. You know what I also said about? You can also say this about people, politicians. You got to be very careful, because you know why? Not every bit in the snake.
Why? Not every what now?
Not every bit in the snake rattles.
Not every venomous what?
Not every venom in the snake will rattle.
Oh, okay. That was good. Now, that one I was telling you about, this guy, they was interviewing this one guy who was a preacher, and he got 5 years in prison because he put his wife in a cage full of snakes because he didn't think she had the faith of God, and put them in there to see if she had the faith, and they killed her. Take a note. Take a note. No. No. So I mean, some of these people. I mean, I've got some family members that distant cousins that handle them snakes.
Mm-mm. Hey, all power to your distant cousins, and all power to all those handlers. Because let me tell you something. You go in the Bible. What did we learn? First book. The snake cheated you out of paradise.
You remind me.
Men and women have been at differences ever since that. And that snake did all that damage and didn't even bite you.
One of my I used to work with a man. He was from Nigeria, Naftali. Man, he was funny. And I was watching these YouTube commercials or YouTube videos, man, about these stupid ass white people going out there and walking up to these lions and tigers and taking cameras of them and then getting their ass eat. And Naftali looked at me and said, "You ever seen a black man get eaten out there?"
No. We don't see black folks. We don't play with that. See where you're at?
No, I know.
We don't play with those alligators and those crocodiles.
Look, either. It is always, every time you see it, it is always some stupid white person and I'm just telling the truth. It's always some stupid white person that hears, well, what was that? I'm going to go check it out, and your ass going to get eat.
Exactly, because you got to remember, you are food to them, and Lord don't mess with any gators or
like I was watching this woman, and she was going out there in this pond, and she was calling this whatever alligator, crocodile out, and she was feeding it with her hand. Like, lady, what is wrong with you?
You have them where you're at. Like you got them out there too in Alabama, don't you?
Do what now?
You got them, those gators or those crocs out there in Alabama too, don't you?
Yeah, we've got some. And I ain't going around them.
Mm-mm.
I mean, anything can eat me. I don't even like me. I don't want to be around a small dog. It can bite me.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they got sharp. I mean,
remember Hurricane? Remember Hurricane?
Go ahead. Oh yeah.
They said they had a big problem with all those crocodiles and those alligators coming out after that.
Oh God. Oh my God, I can't. Oh.
And there's Six Flags New Orleans. And when they built it, they should have built it 20 miles north of the French Quarter. They put it 20 miles below the French Quarter. And they just thought the only thing we have to do is hope there's not a hurricane. That hurricane ruined that park, and they only use that park now for filming movie sets. You go on YouTube, you can look that up, but you see people that went there from 2002 to 2005. There was a lot of memories made, and it's just sad to see that whole park destroyed like that. And you know what though? Them gators own that park. There's like a swamp out there. The gators own the place.
Have you seen that YouTube video? You can look it up with Anderson Cooper over there in the Nile going over there looking at them crocodiles. He is going down there in their caves, and like face to face like this right here with one of them things. Again, only a stupid ass white person is going to go down there and mess around with like I was in the Great Smoky Mountains when I was a kid, right? And I see the paramedics rush up there and medics, because some dumbass woman went up there and tried to feed a little baby cub. You know, you see the baby cub, stay away from the cub.
A cub bear or a cub mountain lion?
Yeah, she went up there and tried to feed the cub.
Because you know what's
and
around
she
a
got
cub?
her ass fed.
You know what's around a
the
cub?
Mama.
Is the mother. Get away.
And that mama gonna come, eat your ass up.
I'll tell you what though, what some people will do out here when they try to go swimming. Some people they don't think about this. You don't swim with seals, because you know why?
Sharks eat them.
Yeah, exactly. The shark is gonna think you want to see.
Yeah, and I ain't about to get eaten by no shark.
Shark will just bite you. They don't like the taste, but you know what? They'll spit you out and bite you, but after you've been bit, forget it.
I mean, I don't get it. I mean, I don't know what these people are thinking when they do that kind of stuff. I mean, like I said, it's always, like Cedric the Entertainer. I listen to him say that, he's so damn funny. I love Cedric. I mean,
you don't play. He put it out there. You don't play with them things. Like, what you doing going out there messing with wildlife?
Well, see, what I love, and I know he thinks this, but I love when he does that thing. Said that his father said, if you ain't good at something, don't do it. He goes, you ain't good at killing, stay your ass in the house.
Or check this out.
OJ killed everybody. He killed everybody in that driveway that night. He'd have killed that dog too. That dog too fast for his ass.
Oh, you talking about Steve Harvey said that?
Oh, I said Cedric the Entertainer, didn't I? I love it. You need to listen to him when he says, you ever heard him do the thing? He says, when he talks about white people and black people getting fired.
Oh,
he says, black people we know, well, any day now, my ass ought to be all on up out of here.
How about this, though? Remember when he called him in? He's all, what you mean? I'm right here. He said, black person, you got to talk to him different. Like, what you no, I'm right here.
He said, can you talk to him in the office? What for?
What for? He's all, this is some bullshit. Never called me in the office.
Some bullshit right here. This is bullshit. I
know it's some bullshit. What do you want? Or check this out.
Bastard never called me in the office in 11 years. He said, white people, he said, they don't ever know when it's coming. Oh, Father Heaven. He said, here you go. I know you're going to have a hard time explaining this about Juanita. This ain't about no Juanita. I can't kiss. That's like, here, and see, like, when last job I had, the black dudes, they used to tell me all the time. They said you should have been. You should have been born black, and because they did. They said you got a lot of black tendencies. Well, when let's see, when I got fired, I'd been there 11 years. So I said, hell, I'm taking everybody down with me. I told where all the bodies were buried. I told. You know, I didn't tell on. I told on the people I didn't like. You know, I didn't tell on my buddies and my buddies and all that kind of my friends. I told on the ones that took me down, or the ones that got me fired. So I told all on them. So the general manager tried to retaliate. And he called the police and was going to tell them that I made a terroristic threat and said I was going to come up there and shoot the place up. You know, so the district manager said, hold up, wait a second before we do this. So he called me and goes, Chris, did you tell Michael that you was going to go home and get a gun and come back up there and shoot him? I said, why would I need to go home? I had a 38 in my pocket.
I'll tell you this though. You remember? Know what I told me and this one guy at my job? Know what we speaking about? Like we talked about with OJ and stuff like that. I said Jill Sively really saw the dog driving. The dog got in the truck. The dog got in the Jeep and got the hell out
of there. You see, back then I used to keep my hair close crop, real short, and they used to call me Columbine. A few years ago, I was moving, right, and I own a lot of weapons and rifles and stuff, and they're legal. But I waited. I was sitting there waiting. My friend goes, "What are you waiting for?" I said, "Well, I'm going to wait a couple more hours until sun starts to go down." And he said, "Well, why?" I said, I just want to load them up when it's dark." And he goes, "Well, why?" He goes, "They're all legal." I said, "Look, if the police get called about a close cropped man with a close cropped haircut, loading up a bunch of rifles and ammunition in the back of a car, they're probably going to come talk to me."
Exactly. They're going to be very concerned.
They're going to know what's going on. You know, that's how it goes. Well, I can tell you're getting tired, man.
Oh yeah, I gotta get to work because I gotta work tomorrow. I got work tomorrow.
Yeah, and I'm so sorry, man, because I got to doing that. See, here's the thing that I'm writing. I'm getting all my information done because I've got an interview with our state representative from my district next week, and the deal is we have a Republican governor, Republican lieutenant governor, Republican legislature, and we can't get one damn bill passed. And I want to know why. Well, all the money we got from the government for COVID the first time, it's all missing. And the money we got the second time, they're taking all that to build prisons with. In the meantime, they didn't fund Medicaid, so all these rural hospitals are closing down. And, you know, these poor people ain't got no hospitals to go to. And I want to know, what the hell did y'all do with $5 billion?
Exactly. Because you know what's really something about those prisons? They have to keep them to 90-something% capacity. So that means you're going to be arresting people and putting them in jail for stuff that was unnecessary. Why isn't the Medicare money there for the Medicaid and the hospitals? Leave the prison system alone. You already got it.
It's for money. Mm-hmm. I mean, you know, you got to pay bond to get out. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's just don't get me started on that. That's a conversation. You know, like our drug laws are so draconian. I mean, so draconian. I mean, we got people in. You know, there was a guy, and I'll let you go for this. There was a guy. I remember. Oh God, his brother played for the Patriots or Giants or something, but he came across the Mexican border, had 27 pounds of marijuana, and he got 27 years in federal prison. I could kill you and wouldn't get 27 years in prison.
Yeah, if you came across that, that's track. Ooh. They thought he was ooh. So you go across that border, you got to remember, you're not in America anymore. They got their laws, or you have American laws, but now this is all they can get you for trafficking now. It's like,
Yeah. Well, I think we're going to do it again on, we'll have to see what time. I'll let you know then. Come on in and join on our podcast and talk some football with us.
Sure.
Saturday night.
Sure. you got yourself a big game Saturday. Woo!
I don't think Bama can beat Georgia.
You don't think?
Man, Georgia's just too physical.
I would say this though, you can't count them out. If you lasted.
No, never count them out. No, they can win. It's just they're just gonna play their best game.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to talk. I need to talk to Fred one night. I've been doing this in my Civil War group, and it has a lot of fun. Like we'll take an issue and get 5 people and sit around and discuss it. And I think it'd be good in his group. See what he thinks about it and tape it and have a roundtable discussion, like say the Bloody Glove or the timeline.
Yeah. You know, the timeline is that's the one that eats everything alive. The timeline is like the abyss. Because I remember an interview with Carrie Best, like when this first happened. She had said, like back in '95, remember Dateline, 1995, and when this first happened, when the reporters acquitted, she said this. She said, time was too tight. Time would not allow that to happen. She said, how did he get rid of all that evidence, clean up all that blood, and then be dressed out for the limo? She said that was one of the hardest things for me to even think about. Time did not allow that.
Well, see, one thing you got to remember is it's not like the movies. You're not going to be sprayed with blood.
It just depends. But we saw that scene. I mean, that scene was like The Shining. Like, what the hell happened there?
He killed him.
Or here's another thing, too. How come nobody saw or heard anything? You telling me ain't nobody saw or heard a damn thing?
No, probably not. Probably over with Fort again.
That was so physical, and that made so much. Because you got to remember, this is a night in June. All those houses are compact. I always say this, though. Jill Shively saw the dog driving. The dog got the hell out of there.
Hey, off topic. I want to ask you something. I want to get your opinion on because one of in my Civil War group, I got like 5,000 people in it, and one of the rules that I have is because I'm a amateur military historian. So one of the rules I have is no discussion of slavery because that just leads people into just a huge fight, and you can't sit there and discuss military tactics when people, and it's a huge fight. And I tell people, look, there's groups I can add you to all the time that we can discuss that, but we're discussing the pure military aspect. One of my right hand man, my second in command, his name's he was doing a podcast with me a while back and got busy. His name's William Satterwhite. He's a black man. Had no idea he was a black man for the longest time. I mean, not that it mattered, because he's one of the most knowledgeable people I ever met on the Civil War. How come do you think more black people are not interested in the actual Civil War as opposed to other wars?
I think because the whole subject matter of how we even got to the Civil War. It's such a button pushing and such a sensitive topic because you got to remember, even after the Civil War, you still had some states and even had some slave owners that still were keeping people after.
Of course, yeah, because think about this right here. There are slaves all on this plantation. Union troops ride up.
Mm-hmm.
You're free. You're free. You're free. Well, what the hell are they going to do? They have no money. They have no skills. Where are they going to go? They're stuck right there. Shelby Foote said it, and he was one of the great historian authors. He said, slavery was the greatest evil on this country. He said, how they treated the freedmen was the second greatest sin because they just basically just left these people there.
Out there.
I mean, what was they going to do? And you can still see, ramifications of today. Because I said, look, they destroyed the war, destroyed the Southern economy, and it destroyed and kept blacks from being able to advance. I mean, for the most part, I mean, they have made strides, but the South is still held back, blacks and whites, because of that. I don't know if we'll ever be caught up.
I think is what it is.
But anyway, that was just an interesting question, I thought.
At the end of the day, it's just one of those things where we got to, in order to move forward, you got to let it's good to have the history and have the museum, but in order for you to embrace now and move forward, you got to let that go.
Well, yeah, we got to let the past go, but we got to figure out a way to advance these Southern people, white and black and Latino, advance them into the future.
Mm-hmm. Well, first of all,
we will talk.
I want to know what happened to that money in your state. You need to find out what happened to that money, because
the gold.
Because you understand where I'm coming from. If they build another prison system, who's going to fill that?
Look, I'm getting all my numbers down. There was one thing. There was I want to say like $250 that was allocated to the counties. Well, to spend. Well, then it got after allocation, there was only $100 million that was spent. There was like 150 that was supposed to go to municipalities. 30 million of it gone. There's billions and billions of dollars that's just missing here. Oh, and here's one thing too. Jim Ziegler, who is running for governor, he's the state auditor. The auditor's supposed to account for the money, right? The audits. Well, I wrote one of my op-eds questioning him, and he unfriended me. So I did something here.
Whoa. Sound like somebody got something to hide. You asked a simple
So I'm going to do a little bit more research, and I'm fixing to write another article on that.
Hey, do this.
But thank you. Yeah, come on with us Saturday night, and we'll talk, and we'll set up another conversation one time. It was good talking to you, my friend.
Good talking to you, bro. Good talking to you, my friend. Yeah. Hey, good talk. Hey, you have a good night and good luck on Saturday.
Thanks, buddy.